Hello and welcome to this special video from myself, Ben from All Sociology, and I'm joined with my very, very good friend, Leanne. Do you want to say hi, Leanne?
Hi.
Hello, hello. And what we're doing here today is we decided it's kind of like the end of the school year, and probably a lot of you are thinking about like how you can kind of revise, go back over some of the content that you might have studied this year, but in a way that isn't reading a textbook or kind of going to a lesson. So what Leanne and I are going to do for you today is we're going to run down some of the most, what we think are the most sort of insightful, useful ways to get your head into some of the topics in the family and households unit at AQA A-Level Sociology. Now, these documentaries, films, podcasts that we're going to kind of recommend to you, they're not things that we would necessarily show in class as such, but they're sort of things that will give you a bit of a background to the sorts of topics and themes that we cover in the families and households unit at AQA A-Level Sociology. So in that respect, what we're trying to do is provide you with a little bit of cultural capital to help you out with your studies in families and households. But you might be sat there thinking, what is cultural capital? Leanne, what is cultural capital?
Well, this is a term coined by Bordeaux, and it's basically the cultural knowledge that serves as currency. So if you think about a topic, you're going to do far better if you know the contextual background to that topic. So what we're trying to do today then is have a look at those different chapters in families and households and really try to see if there's anything out there that doesn't involve a textbook that could broaden your knowledge about those topics.
Yeah, because we don't really like textbooks, and we much prefer watching movies and documentaries and YouTube, and then we're pretty sure, we're not exactly certain, but we're pretty sure you're probably the same, especially after kind of a whole year's worth of learning sociology. So without further ado, Leanne is going to kick us off, and we're going to start first of all by talking about one of the biggest topics in the families and households module, which is the topic about conjugal roles and family relationships.
Yes, so with this topic then, we have lots of information about couples and whether or not things are equal between couples. So I was looking for some wider sort of reading, wider not reading around this, and there are a lot of TED Talks actually about this. So the first one I came across was Gender Equality Through Empowering Women. And it explores kind of society's norms and the way it shapes the way men and women sort of share or not share those household tasks. So I thought it was a really good TED Talk that you can whack on and just listen to, you know, statistics and ideas about those norms and values shaping gender domains within the domestic kind of sphere. So
excellent.
It also links to March of Progress. It links to division of labour, obviously, and feminism. So there's quite a few sort of areas. It's not just topics of couples, it's also theories.
Smashing. Okay, so obviously if you want to get hold of that, we're going to put as many of the links to these documentaries and podcasts and stuff in the comments or in the description to this video, so that's where you'll be able to find them. But that's a TED Talk as well, so you can grab that through the TED Talks. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about a couple of podcasts that are really handy for this particular module. So the first one is from the BBC Radio 4's Thinking Aloud series, which is hosted by Professor Laurie Taylor. And Laurie Taylor did an episode back in December 2018 called Au Pairing and Domestic Labour, and this is all about the ways in which couples share, or rather don't share, domestic tasks in the home. That's well worth listening to. It's an excellent excellent show, really well put together. It's about half an hour, and you can get that one through BBC Sounds or indeed through wherever you get your podcasts from. The other podcast I was going to mention as well is a bit of a shout out here to Matthew Wilkins' The Sociology Show, which you can get by going to finding The Sociology Show on Spotify or indeed wherever you get your podcasts. He has done an interview with undoubtedly the most famous sociologist from this part of the specification, the one and only Professor Anne Oakley. So that interview was recorded on the 31st of May 2021, so it's a really recent podcast and up to date, so you can go and check that out again if you search for The Sociology Show, and his podcasts are all in order. So just scroll down to May and you'll be able to find that one with Anne Oakley.
I've got another TED Talk here. It's called Don't Underestimate a Working Mum. So again, challenging those stereotypes of conjugal roles, whether men should be the ones that go out to work or whether women should sort of have that sort of neo-conventional structure where they go out to work as well. So it challenges those notions surrounding working mothers. There's links to feminism, so cross links to other topics, positives of working and how women have changed their roles. But there's also links to postmodernity and diversity in structures.
Oh, that's
So
one
the
to check
rapports.
out. That's definitely one to check out then. Loads going on in that one. I'm going to hit you with a film as well. So there is a film called The Wife. It came out in 2017. It stars Glenn Close. And this is a film that's all about a husband and wife, and it's about their relationship both previously, so throughout history, and seeing the kind of interactions between them, seeing the sacrifices that they both make. And the film is set at a point in their life. They're kind of middle-aged, getting towards the later stages of their life. Her husband has been nominated for an award, and she's on her way to see him pick up this award, and she's having sort of like thinking about her life, thinking about what she's sacrificed for her husband. So this really ties into those ideas about work, who gets to work, sacrifices that one partner will often make in order to provide childcare or look after domestic affairs and those kind of things. So well worth checking out. It's not even that long as well. I think it's about 80, 90
Even
minutes.
better.
Even better, yeah, even better. I don't know why we've gone all blurry there, but we have.
That's what my vision is like normally. Right, okay. Netflix it's got a wealth of different documentaries on there, and when we explore conjugal roles and gender roles and couples, we also look at the dark side of the family, and there's quite a bit on there. I've picked out a particularly good documentary about, it's called Murder to Mercy, and it basically looks at this young lady who's committed murder when she's a teenager, but it traces back to the reasons why she committed murder and the abuse she suffered within the family, so the impacts of the dark side of the family. So it touches on that. And of course, with Amazon Prime, there is a series called Private Violence, which is basically tracking the case of Dina Walters, who is a survivor of spousal abuse. So it basically shows us her sort of her crusade for justice.
Right, excellent. Okay, so really good one. I mean, look, when it comes to domestic violence and domestic abuse, there are loads and loads of excellent documentaries out there. I mean, you have to be kind of aware that these are potentially really sensitive issues and stuff. So just be aware of that before you go and watch them. But just to give you a flavour of some that you can catch on BBC iPlayer, especially, there was one recently called Behind Closed Doors, which looked at the impact of domestic violence, obviously behind closed doors, and perhaps what we don't see in social spaces is obviously something that goes hidden. There's also an excellent one from Alesha Dixon, who did a programme on her mum being abused when she was younger, which is called Don't Hit My Mum. Again, that's on BBC iPlayer, so it's about one there about kind of your parents being abused and seeing that as a child, so it's also got links to the childhood spec. A couple more as well. So Domestic Abuse Caught on Camera was a panorama documentary from the BBC, also from, I think, fairly recently, if not this year, then from last year. And the last one is a really, really good one called Home Truths, which features the ex-footballer and now football commentator Ian Wright talking about that one. It's really, really good. So you can catch that on iPlayer as well. So we're looking at domestic violence there from a variety of different perspectives, not just, I mean, Leanne mentioned spousal abuse, but we've also got elder abuse, sibling abuse, and other things going on there, both between men and women as well. So we're looking at all sides from there. So loads of things to check out on that spec.
So should we go on to the next topic area?
Yeah, we should. So we're going to talk about demography really briefly, but there isn't a huge amount of demography content out there that you can use to kind of like get your head into it and around it. But we have picked out a few things, and you have to be a little bit careful with demography because, like, generally speaking, the example do want you to focus on UK in the last sort of 100 years or since 1900. So there's a lot of stuff out there. A lot of it doesn't necessarily apply to Britain, but I have got a couple that do. So I actually caught this one on TV. I don't even watch that much TV, but I ended up catching this about a couple of weeks ago, and it's called Extra Life: A Short History of Living Longer Behaviour. So there's 4 episodes in. That's free. There's 4 episodes. It's been a long day. There's 4 episodes in this series, and this last one is all about how life expectancy has increased, not due to scientific or metaphysical changes. It's actually about how we've changed our behaviours that have had a massive impact on living longer. And this show is particularly talking about the tiniest little things like washing your hands and about like hygiene as you go into hospital that have massively increased our life expectancies. There's one there for you, Extra Life: A Short History of Living Longer, episode 4 on behaviour. That's well worth checking out.
One of the things that is quite useful is to know the trends. They always say that, the examiners, that you don't need to learn off by heart the statistics, but the trends you need to know, so birth rates, death rates.
Yeah.
One of the trends obviously is the ageing population that we've talked about, And on this TED Talk, Truth of the Aging Time Bomb, it does talk about quite a few trends and statistics and things like that. So it talks about, you know, the fact that people are living longer due to the improved nutrition, money, but also the implications, which tends to be what the examiners focus on, isn't it? So what's the implications of an ageing population, both good as well as bad? So things like, you know, the implications of housing and healthcare, the implications of how we as a society view older people, you know, as old fogies, or the brilliance of the fact that they give us the grey pound. So ageism is something it touches on. So that's the truth of the aging time bomb.
Awesome. Very good. I'm going to stick on the ageing population. This is a BBC documentary. It's not on iPlayer, but you can catch it on YouTube. The documentary is called Life at 100. It came out a couple of years ago, and it's charting how people are now living more and more to age 100, which we call a centenarian. Now, previously, this used to be a massive occasion because only a few people would get to age 100. But as you might be able to expect, with our increasing ageing population and increasing life expectancies, more and more people are reaching 100. This charts the impacts of getting to 100, both on the individual, on society, and on social services, as well as some of the consequences and the causes of why we've got an ageing population as well. So that's another one I would check out if you're interested in older people and seeing things from their side. It's very much like a fly on the wall documentary. You really get a sense of what it's like to be 100. I doubt I'll ever make it that far, but you know, I've got a few years to go yet. So that's a bit sort of morbid, wasn't it? Yeah, never mind. Any more for demography?
No, I haven't got anything more for demography.
All right, shall we talk about Ben?
Talk about Ben?
Yeah, we can talk about Ben if you want, but that'd be well boring. So let's talk about changing patterns of things like marriage, cohabitation, separation, really divorce. All right, I'm going to shut.
I've got a really good one. It's on BBC iPlayer, and it's called America's Child Brides. So it's slightly different because obviously we look at marriage in terms of first-time marriages, second marriages, whether divorce is going up or down. But this focuses on or investigates loopholes in allowing girls in the USA to marry older men. So it's a change in pattern in marriage that people often overlook. There's links obviously to diversity and postmodernism, and again childhood links for you know, this whole part of the spec where you look at theories on childhood and whether it's conflict approach or consensus approach, and this obviously would showcase inequality in power and status.
That's really, really interesting. Something of interest about America as well, because it's a much bigger country than us. It's about I think it's got about 6 times as many people, and God knows how much bigger it is in terms of like actual land mass and stuff like that. But because you've got in America different states have different laws. So in one state, I think there is a certain state you can be, I think it's 14 or even younger than that to be married, whereas others it goes up to 18. I think mine be a state that's 21 as well. So it completely differs there. So you have to bear that in mind when you are watching that. One of the ones I will mention about changing patterns of marriage and stuff like that. Obviously, in the UK context, we normally focus on monogamous relationships, but I find polygamy well interesting, and I know a lot of students do as well. So I've got a couple of polygamy ones. I've got one on Netflix, which is called 3 Wives, 1 Husband. I don't even need to explain that, but you can watch it out. If 3 Wives and 1 Husband isn't quite enough for you, how about 17 Kids and Counting? That's on Channel 4. And then you've also got I love Louis Theroux. Do you like Louis Theroux? Oh my God, I love it.
Watch most of them.
Amazing. He's done one. He did one a while back on his Altered States series. So this is available on iPlayer. If you can't catch it on iPlayer, you'll find it somewhere on YouTube. It's called Louis Theroux Altered States: Love Without Limits, Polygamy. And just as something to open your eyes to see how other people live is, again, this is what we're talking about. These aren't necessarily shows, podcasts, documentaries that are going to tell you the answers how to pass an exam, but they will give you a massive load of cultural capitals and background knowledge, a bit more of a wider understanding, and maybe a bit of compassion about other people's situations that perhaps are different to our own.
Sorry about that.
What was that? Was that your
phone? That's my phone.
Is it? All right, more popular than me. What else have we got? That was pretty much it from me for like the changing pattern stuff, because there's a lot in there. Anything else from you, Leanne?
No, not from me for that, but I was going to briefly just talk about theories, if that's okay.
Go on then, talk about theories.
Well, because it's such a massive area, there is so much available out there to really deepen your understanding about Marxism, feminism, postmodernism. You log on to BBC Sounds, if you go on to Radio 4, you know, you can catch so many podcasts that cover, you know, the basics of Marxism and feminism. But one podcast kind of webpage that I stumbled upon, which I thought was absolutely fantastic. It was called Podology, and it specialises in sociological podcasts. So, you know, obviously it's not families and households, but you know Willis, Learning to Labour in the Education. Well, I think one of the comedians, Charlie Dimmock, or there's a comedian that everyone knows, I forget, I should have written it down, and he's actually interviewed him.
Oh, no way.
You know? So there's ones that, there's stuff on education, there's stuff on families and households, there's stuff on Marxism, feminism, loads of stuff.
I've got a feeling, I'm not quite sure, sorry Matthew if this is wrong, I've got a feeling that the guy who does the sociology show is the guy who used to do Podology. Yeah. I might be wrong. If I've got that wrong, I'm really sorry.
Charlie Dimmock.
Charlie Dimmock?
That's the comedian.
She's a gardener, isn't she?
No, oh.
He's like the ginger
Charlie
gardener.
someone.
Charlie Brooker?
Oh, I'll have to look it up. I'll put it on the link.
We'll find out for you, don't worry. Right, I'll tell you what, we're going to talk about childhood because there is loads of documentaries and films about childhood. I'm going to start off with some movies because, like, you can totally get your head into... Like, what I find kind of, like, difficult for students is, like, understanding what life used to be like. So, like, for instance, when we talk about, well, how did childhood used to be? Is it any better or any worse than it is now? Like, go back and watch some of these movies and you'll find out about childhood and different cultures and stuff. So the first one I'm going to mention, Billy Elliot. Like a cracking movie from 1999 or something like that. Won loads of awards, BAFTAs and stuff like that. It talks about a lot about issues about gender. There's sexuality issues in there. There's class issues in there, and it's all about a little boy's kind of, well, it's not that little, it's a teenage boy's kind of aspirations, not to become a boxer, instead to become a ballet dancer. So really flipping gender on its head. I'm going to hit you up with some hoods. There is 3 good films on childhood. One is called Boyhood, which is a Richard Linklater film, came out in 2014. Really, really good. It actually was shot in sequence, filming this kid as he got older throughout his life. So it's an incredible film to watch as this boy kind of changes. It's a really, really good movie. Yep. You've also got Girlhood, which is a more kind of darker movie, which is definitely well worth checking out as well. And then you've got Kidulthood, which is quite an old film. It's about 20 years old now. But again, it will give you a bit of an insight into what the experience of being a boy in America, or a girl in that case in the UK, or indeed a young ethnic minority group of people in inner city urban London growing up. You'll get that through Kidulthood. So there's 3 for you there.
East is East.
East is East is a very good film as well.
For ethnicity and growing up.
Absolutely. I'm going to hit you with a couple more as well, just some films that I really love. So there's this film called Kes as well.
Is that the one with the birds?
It is the one with the birds, yeah. So that movie, like, it is very slow, but what I think it does, not only is it a beautiful film and it is beautifully directed, you should also watch that because it'll give you a flavour of what like being a kid was like in Britain in the late 60s, 1970s, particularly in working class areas. So it's set up in the north of England in a working class area. This will give you a taste of how poor some of these areas were just 50 or 60 years ago. So there's a whole bunch of movies from there. I mean, I could talk for more. The other one I'm going to mention very quickly is City of God, which is a Brazilian film from the early 2000s, and it's about kids who grow up in the favelas in Rio, in the slums. And again, we're looking there at cross-cultural differences between childhood. If you haven't seen it before, it will stay with you. It's a very, very powerful film.
Good.
Anything from you, Leanne?
I haven't, no.
You haven't?
I don't think I've got anything on childhood.
Can I carry on going then? Because I've got flipping loads.
Oh, actually, no.
Go on,
no,
you
I
go
have.
first.
It's not childhood per se, but it's about children, so I'm going to put it in.
Go on.
It's a TED Talk by a lady called Christian, and it's called I Don't Want Children. So slightly different, but does have its overlaps with couples, I suppose, roles within family and diversity and basically a TED Talk talking about how we have as women this pressure to have children, and 1 in 5 in the US obviously don't have biological children of their own, and how she talks us through her own process of getting sterilised and the pressures surrounding that. So slightly different, but talks about children. Excellent.
Okay, cool. I'm just going to mention very quickly a couple of things that I perhaps might show in lessons. One of these things is called 7 Up, and 7 Up is a series that's been going for, my God, like 50 years, I think, or something like that in the UK, maybe even longer. And the essential premise of the show is that apparently human beings change at 7-year periods in their life, so age 0, age 7, 14, 21, 28, 35, etc., etc. And this programme is like a repeat, almost like a longitudinal qualitative study, get that bit of effort in there for you as well, that follows people as they go through stages of their life in 7 years. So age 7, what are they like at age 14, at age 21. If you've not seen it before, it's fantastic. There is so much of it, you'll never be able to watch all of it.
But it's good, isn't it, because of the methods as well, because it returns to those, the strengths and weaknesses of using longitudinal studies.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I believe one of them died.
They did, yes, I think so, yeah. So you've, sadness as well. So do have a box of tissues ready when you're watching some of this stuff. I could go on for ages because I've got other films in here and other things I've got here to mention. But I'm going to mention the last one, which is going to be, it's called Suffer the Little Children, and it's a documentary, BBC documentary by a chap called Ian Hislop, who is the editor of Private Eye, and he's also one like Have I Got News for You. You'll recognise him if you don't know the name. It's a really good documentary that charts how childhood has changed. I mean, this is like pretty much bang on spec for childhood, right? Definitely. And it charts how childhood has changed throughout the 20th century. So go and check out some of them. There is so many shows you can watch. I mean, if you want to go a little bit more kind of like less informative, more entertaining, you've got shows like Tribal Teens from Channel 5, you've got The Tribe Next Door from Channel 4, you've got Toddlers and Tiaras,
Oh God, yeah, like, experience of childhood.
So, you've got all of this stuff there if you want to watch that, but there's loads of stuff for childhood. But my big ones would be the movies, so Richard Linklater's Boyhood, Ken Loach's Kes, and why not, let's throw in Danny Boyle's Slumdog Millionaire to have a look at how cross-cultural differences in childhood are in India. There we go. Excellent. Cool. So now we're just going to talk about what we're talking about now.
I don't know.
Have we done theories?
I think we're done.
We've done theories.
Yeah, done theories.
Done theories.
Yeah,
cool.
done
So there we go. Like that's probably like 20 minutes or something like that. Do you know, we haven't even had a drink, have we?
No.
Let's have a drink. Cheers.
Cheers.
There you go. So what we've hopefully done for you over the last like 20 minutes or so is just giving you a few ideas about some things you can watch, you can listen to and immerse yourself in that are going to give you a broader contextual understanding of some of those key kind of areas within the families and households spec at AQA, so AQA A-Level Sociology. So that's it from me for the time being, and that's it from Leanne.
Goodbye.
So we'll see you again next time. Hopefully what we're planning to do is come back with a few more of these videos. This one's you can probably see it's in a classroom. It's Leanne's classroom. She's very kindly invited me in. What we're going to try and do in the future is do a few on location. So we're thinking about doing a few down the pub in the future if they will let us come in with our camera and talk sociology while we drink pints. So that's it from us for the moment. Thanks very much for watching. If you want to catch more of me, you can follow me, subscribe to the YouTube, or follow me on Instagram. So I'm at All Sociology. What's your Twitter and Instagram, Leanne? Do you want any followers?
I think mine's at Coppleston Soch.
So that's at COPLESTONSOC, and that's on Twitter as well?
Yep.
Okay, there we go. So if you want to follow us, that's where we are. I'll see you later. Bye!